Okay, so the next rule we are going to look at is the summarizer. And you are probably all familiar with writing a summary, but just to kind of review, as the summarizer, you are going to read a section, watch a section, listen to a section of some kind of a text, and then you're going to go back, figure out what you feel like are the couple key points in that section, and then just summarize that in 2 to 3 sentences, put it into your own words. So I'm just going to show you what my summary for a section of this article would look like. So I'm actually going to scroll down and I'm going to put where I'm starting right at the very top here. So it says, I'm the first to admit that dress code rules have gotten way out of hand lately. We should be allowed to express ourselves within reason, and I don't think we should be punished with detention or sent home for a one-time offense. Sometimes kids just make a mistake or don't realize what they're wearing isn't exactly appropriate for school, and that's okay. What's not okay is when a student intentionally wears something that is super revealing or promotes hate or violence. In those instances, a teacher needs to be able to refer to a dress code so they don't waste time pondering which kinds of clothing are unacceptable or the best methods of handling the situation. After all, they're busy and they want to resolve the situation as quickly as possible so students can get back to learning. Honestly, I even think school uniforms can be helpful because they prevent kids from wearing improper clothing. And they also make it less likely that someone will get bullied for what they're wearing. So many students get made fun of for what they wear when they're wearing might be all they can afford. Uniforms could make this problem irrelevant. Dress policies exist for a reason, to make education a priority for all students. A written code, enforced fairly, ensures that we're all treated equally. So as I look at these 2 paragraphs here, really in that first paragraph and then most of the second paragraph, it really seems to me that this author is having a hard time deciding. They're having a hard time deciding. They're saying on the one hand, dress codes are good for this reason, and on the other hand, maybe they're not. So I think one of the big issues there is that dress codes are really sensitive. Like there has to be a balance. We need to be able to express ourselves, and we need to be able to learn in a safe environment. So I think that's one main point of this section. And then another thing that I feel like is a main point at the very end of what I read, talking about how students get made fun of for what they wear. Dress policies exist for a reason. We want to make sure that we're treated fairly. Uniforms could make some of these problems irrelevant. And I really think those are my 2 main points, talking about how it's hard to know whether or not there should be a dress code because sometimes kids are doing things maybe intentionally, maybe not, and it's kind of hard to differentiate. And then I think his second main point, or the author's second main point, is that uniforms could help kind of solve this. So if I go back into my summarizer rule, I already wrote this one out, so you guys don't have to see me type. But I'll read it to you so you can see how I kind of took those 2 main points, talking about how it's hard to know whether or not something should be a dress code violation and how uniforms could help it. And I made my 2 sentences. So my first sentence, dress codes are a sensitive issue. We need to express ourselves, but we cannot intentionally distract others or make them feel uncomfortable or unsafe. That's how I reworded that first main point into my own words. And then the second point about maybe possibly using uniforms is where my second sentence comes from here. Since it's hard to judge whether someone is doing something to intentionally harm others, the best solution for education purposes might be uniforms because they would ensure all students were treated equally. And there is my 2-sentence summary of those 2 paragraphs of this article.